You didn't miss it, Robert. We didn't do it. But also, I guess maybe
he missed it.
Are we on now? Oh, hey, what's up there? I'm responding to Robert Monroe Jr. He's in the chat, right? Meow. Talking about fresh floppies. We'll get to that in just a diddly-do. What's up to our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the mother-loving Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the Web of CultPop Podcast, episode 20.
The classic sound of Spider-Man's webs.
Yeah. Episode 29, a show where we talk about movies and TV and comics, our favorite spider personas.
My box fell.
And all the other things that scratch your nerdy itch. I do want to take a very important second or two to acknowledge that today, 4 years ago, to the day,
Really?
the hit film Ma was released in theaters. So happy anniversary to Ma. It's been 4 long years.
Was that about Superman's mom, Ma Kent?
No.
It's like a
That was
hard-hitting.
Martha.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever see Ma? Anybody? I guess no.
No.
I know you didn't. You don't watch filmed entertainment.
I watch things that have been filmed.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The movie?
No, that's the one with
Octavia Spencer?
Octavia Spencer.
Yeah.
Was it good?
No.
No.
No, it wasn't.
No.
But it
we're-
is 4 years old.
Yeah. We're coming to you live from the video content. That's just these boxes, man. I can't stop touching them.
Get pretty good sound out of these.
A video content factory is where we currently are. It's a bomb-ass production facility? Let's say facility.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, in Felicity, PA. I'm your irradiated host, Johnny Destructo. He being of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street in Philadelphia. It's a rad-ass comic shop. We cater to all the folks,
Yes, you do.
except for Nazis. Maybe not Nazis. Every other folks, though.
You wouldn't sell to Nazis?
Yeah.
If a Nazi
if you
came
could-
in and wanted to buy comic books, would you
wouldn't
sell
sell
them?
No.
Like he announces himself as a Nazi.
What?
I mean,
What if you could help him out? Like, right? Like, get him to
Oh,
slowly change
I
his
see.
mind about
Change
things,
his
open
mind.
it up. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Maybe.
Around.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. With me tonight is Len.
yo, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Triple.
Would you serve a Nazi?
Would I serve a Nazi?
Would you sell a Nazi comic books?
If a
If you
Nazi,
had an establishment?
let me put it this way. If a Nazi came into my store and was not being Nazi all over the place,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I'd take his money.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Okay. And Brian.
Yes, I would serve a Nazi if it fell under the circumstances that I described earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also in the booth is our intrepid producer, Dylan the Great.
Hey, yo, what up, everybody?
Can they see you or just hear you?
They can just hear me.
That's fine. That's all we need.
Yeah.
How do they know?
And
that it's
even
in your
that's a
ear?
little bit much.
Before we get into tonight's discussion, we'd like to thank you all for hanging out with us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell notification so that you know that we're here doing our thing and that you can join us. Don't forget to comment because we love it. That's our favorite. Additionally, we want you to engage with us the rest of the week. So email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. Maybe you're enjoying your day and a thought pops in your mind. I got to tell the guys about this. Email us,
Yeah.
cultpopgo@gmail.com. We're going to start the show off as we generally do with a segment I like to call What You Been Up To This Week. I'm going to throw it to Len and me because we both did the same thing this week.
We
Whoa.
did, JD.
But you tell me what that was.
We watched the finale, the series finale of Secession.
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 Secession. Have you seen Secession?
Secession? I
Secession.
haven't seen that one.
It being filmed, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
No.
it is filmed entertainment.
As you know, I only watch the moving of the trees.
So Succession is an HBO. I'm sorry, just Max. It's a Max show.
It was an HBO show first.
That's true. HBO Max first.
No, it was HBO.
What?
It was
Oh,
only.
yeah.
Oh, was that before?
It was
only 4 years ago. How long is HBO?
But it was an HBO series that they also streamed on Max. But it was an
Oh.
HBO series.
I thank you. And basically, we've got Brian Cox,
Mm-hmm.
who's amazing. I love Brian Cox. He's such a great actor.
Well, it sounded like you were describing the kind of cocks you had.
We
had Brian
the
Cox.
Brian
Yeah.
variety.
Which Brian was
Yeah.
like,
You're like,
So
well,
many
lucky
Brian
you.
Cox. And so he is basically, he is the owner of a giant multinational corporation media conglomerate.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically think of the family, the Murdochs that
Yeah.
own
Mhm.
Fox Network and Rupert Murdoch and all of his children.
His
And
spawn.
Succession, I don't think they really hide that it's kind of like loosely
Yeah.
based on their life, And Brian Cox plays. Now I'm just drawing the Roys.
Yeah.
And his 3 boys and 1 girl, and their battle for his crown because he's coming of
Yeah.
age, and we think is going to succeed. It's been going on for 4 years.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's as much hype has been about the series finale. From what I understand, it's not like this was like a super big hit. Like this
Yeah.
wasn't Game of Thrones numbers that it was
Yeah. Oh,
throwing
no.
around. But it definitely started to catch a pulse in the zeitgeist. And I think that's because of it being so much a window into that whole lifestyle that people don't get we know nothing about.
Which looks exhausting. There are
Living in
times
that
where I'm
world.
like, I wish I was rich. And then I watch Succession and I'm like, I don't know, man. That looks awful.
Yeah, see, but that's the difference. This is not about people being rich. This is about people hungry for power.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not really about the power, because what you learn throughout the whole 4 years is they just want their daddy to love them.
Yeah. That's true. That I can relate to. But yeah, it's awesome. We got Shiv, Kendall, Roman, Connor, all of which are great characters. There's no good people in
None.
this show. There's not a single
Even
good
Shiv?
person. Not even Shiv.
Yeah.
Siobhan.
Oh, okay.
Siobhan. But basically, yeah, it's like who's gonna take over for this for the dad once he eventually relinquishes his throne,
Yeah.
But it's just so much fun, and it is surprisingly funny.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. People are no joke, man. They are cutthroat, but they are silly. They don't recognize their own ineptitude.
Yeah.
Some of them, especially like Shiv's husband, Tom.
Tom Wamsgams.
Wamsgam. And it's insane, the stuff that there was one scene not this week. I think it was maybe now 2 weeks ago. Which week was the election? That was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, there was this scene. This guy was about to go, and he had to go in front of the television cameras to announce something.
Yeah.
But I forget. He ate a piece of sushi that had like some hot wasabi on it, but somehow I guess it got on his fingers and then in his eyes.
Yeah.
So his eyes were burning, and there's this dumb cousin Greg who's
I
like
love Greg.
this inept like cousin who
Basically a whipping boy.
whipping
Tom.
boy, but who has failed upwards.
Yeah.
And he's in the room and he's like, oh my god, everybody get some water, and he pours some
That's right.
lemon LaCroix on my guy's
And he's like, it's just a hint of lemon.
it's just a hint of lemon. I don't know why.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Overall, did you enjoy all the 4 years of Succession?
I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I like looking into the miserable lives of the rich and famous.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun.
I will admit, there's probably a good 25% of that show I don't understand.
Yeah.
But the interactions are so interesting and engaging. The character work is so well done, and it's so cringy at times that I kind of I'm like, okay, they're talking some jargon I don't quite understand. I can get past it.
And that's what it
And you
gets into,
figure it out
like
through
the whole
context
the
clues.
business thing,
Yeah.
of exactly what their company Waystar
Yeah.
Royco does. You don't really care.
Yeah.
You figure it's a TV station. They've got a whole bunch of other businesses. They've got some amusement parks.
They have some cruise ships.
The
There was a
cruise
whole
ships.
cruise ship.
It's a whole thing because
thing.
in there it's kind of, even though it's like the Rupert family, the business dynamic is a little Disney-ish. In
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
way,
it sounds that
right?
way. Yeah.
So but you don't care about any of that. It's all
Yeah.
about how people are just fucking each other over.
Yeah.
Well, that way they can also comment on
Exactly.
anything messed up that Disney is up to or whatever.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
and they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Monroe Jr. is in the chat saying, "What's up, Cult Poppers? I missed fresh floppies this afternoon." Yeah, as you can see, Noel and Randy are not joining us. They both had separate things to attend to. And so today we did not do an episode of Fresh Floppy. So I don't know if you mean you missed it like you couldn't find it or you missed it because there wasn't one, but there wasn't one, so you didn't miss it. But we missed you anyway. Brian,
Hey.
what you been up to this week? Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, good. That would make the show go so much smoother.
Well, let's see what I can do about that. The show Extrapolations.
Never heard of it.
We talked about it right before the show.
I was doing notes. You were talking to him. I have no idea what's going on.
All right.
Tell me about it.
Fair enough.
Go on.
So anyway, the show Extrapolations, it's about climate change.
Extrapolating?
Yeah, they extrapolate like all the time.
Non-stop.
It gets to a point where everything that happens on screen is an extrapolation of this time.
Like, I wish
right?
these guys would stop extrapolating
Yeah.
so much.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
have to watch the show, but so it's about climate change, and
Fuck.
I initially thought it was a series of like an anthology series where they were all unrelated, but it's not the case. It starts a couple of years from now, maybe 5 years from now or so, and then jumps forward every episode like some amount of years, 7, 10, 12 years, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can see
Huh.
the effects.
What
of-
happens, and
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Some
I do not have the constitution for this, I don't
No.
think.
No.
It sounds sad. Horrifying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it definitely
Yeah.
is. The hope is that this doesn't happen, right? That
Yeah,
we
yeah.
figure some way around it.
We won't, but go on.
It was so we'll see. But
Yeah.
actually, we were watching it last night, and we are like, oh, we could really easily still be alive this year. We'd be 78 when this happens, and we'd be the ages of some of these characters
Yeah.
that are there, right? So the first episode, I thought, especially when I thought it was an anthology series, I was like, this is kind of slow, right?
Mhm.
But then as it goes on, and now it's 2059, and it's episode 5, so it's 30 or 40 years past what we initially saw. It's more and more interesting, right? As you see things propagate, changes propagate over the span of the show. There are a lot of big stars. Edward Norton was in this last one. Meryl Streep. No, Glenn Close. Sorry.
I always confuse them too.
Yeah, I can
Isn't
see
that
it,
weird? Yeah.
right? The guy who played Lafayette and
Mhm.
Jefferson in Hamilton is a rabbi. He's really good.
So wait, is this fictional acting out or is it like documentary style?
It's fictional acting out. So you follow these characters and you figure out what's happening on the planet, like
Gotcha.
through the lens of their lives.
Oh, neat. I
yeah.
assumed it was like documentary style, like graphs and.
No. Very few graphs. There are some graphs.
Yeah.
in
I
the
do like a
context
good
of the
graph.
story.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
But yeah, it's more and more interesting. I keep waiting to see some of the characters showing up significantly older, like a child that's introduced as an adult in a later one, and so far that has not happened. Keira Knightley was in the last one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely could see people finding it hard to take because it's about something that could happen and that is on track to happen. But if anything, hopefully this show will help change one or two people's minds or more than that.
Is this like one season? How many seasons? Is it?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
Is
plan
it currently releasing?
I don't know. It might all be out. We're on episode 5. I'm not sure. I don't know if there are more coming out or not.
Because I remember a show that dropped a couple of years ago, and you're introduced to this cast of characters, and then some sort of apocalypse happens, and then it jumps in the next episode. And it sounded similar to this, but I don't know
No.
what that.
I don't know.
Nobody knows. Okay,
No.
that's all right.
And it's very slow. It's not, in the beginning, it's like, oh, things are about to happen. And then things are happening. And then this other thing is happening, and all
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
I
So,
wonder what I'm
yeah.
thinking about.
Well, Brian, I really appreciate you telling us about this show that I am never going to
Never
watch
gonna
because
watch
this
that.
sounds
Yeah.
depressing as hell.
Yeah. Well, we were saying, my fiance and I, that it'll be interesting.
fiancé.
Oh, yes. So we were watching it,
Are
and
you like contractually, you have to say that every episode now?
My fiance.
it's an understanding. It's not, yeah.
Yeah,
there's nothing written, but
Yeah.
it's a. So my fiance and I were watching.
Uh-huh.
We're watching this and talking about like, oh, it would be interesting to watch this again in this actual time that this
Yeah.
year is and see
Oh yeah,
what
where it
happened.
goes. Yeah, just
right. Yeah.
record it on your VCR
There-
and watch it
Yeah.
in 50 years.
I was just going to do a flip book of it
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
then flip it through.
Oh, that makes more
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That's way easier than would you recommend it?
I would recommend it. It's gotten better and better. It's really well done. Near future hard sci-fi. But also if the subject matter doesn't sound appealing for you, it's not like a must.
Yeah.
It's just in fact, we watched the first one and it took us like a month to get to the second one. And
Yeah.
now that it's picking up, we're more into it. But yeah.
I just did a similar thing where when it first dropped, I watched the first episode of Superman and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple months later, I watched the second episode of Superman and Lois. And then this week, we watched the third episode of Superman and Lois.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're really just breezing through it.
Right. So
It's
you
just, I
haven't.
just forget about it. And then
Yeah.
it pops up on the Max, whoever's got it.
I don't know.
That would be Max.
Is it Max?
Is it Max, not Netflix?
And I'm like,
I
oh
think it
yeah,
is,
that show
yeah.
exists. Let's watch that for a couple minutes.
Well,
Yeah.
certainly the first season is on
Yeah.
Max.
Oh, okay, cool.
So where's that streaming?
That is on
TV.
Apple.
Apple TV.
Yeah.
Apple
They
TV.
do some good stuff. I like.
I
Apple.
mean,
They
because,
do.
because they
Yeah.
don't have the size of the library that the other streaming. They are very, very particular about what they put on their streaming. So more times out of 10, anything on Apple is usually good. It's prestige stuff.
Yeah.
You may not
It is
like
prestige.
You know,
Yeah,
it's funny.
yeah.
I'm starting to feel about Apple the way I was feeling about HBO in the 90s, aughts, with The Sopranos and everything.
Yeah.
Like they were the place to go to for
Yeah.
like prestige
For
television,
good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
and now they're just Max. So Apple TV feels like it's like they're just, the Max app has so much stuff on it that it's like just kind of getting a little too big for its own britches.
Well, I think that's
But,
why
like,
they-
Apple feels like it's like they're funneling a lot of money into fewer projects and making better quality.
Well, that's
maybe.
part of the reason I think Brian's about
Yeah.
to go here. Why they wanted to change the branding to just Max,
Yeah.
because with that influx of so much stuff and it being HBO Max,
Yeah.
it was watering down the brand of
Yeah.
HBO.
Yeah.
Because HBO still
Yeah.
has good stuff. Succession.
Yeah.
I just watched the
Barry.
entire second season of. A lot of people love Barry. I like Barry. I just didn't stick with it. But I watched the second season of Perry Mason.
Oh, I heard
Is
that
that
was
good?
really
I
good.
loved it.
With
Oh.
Tatiana Maslany. Is
That's
that
in the first season.
Oh,
She's
yeah?
very good.
That's what I
Very
heard.
good. And
Yeah.
the second
Ah.
season is like potentially even better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
because
thinking about starting that.
I bet they'll have an HBO section
They
on
do.
Max. Oh, do they already?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely their thing.
So that's what we've
Right.
been up to this week. But now I'll tell you what. So not Edge of Spider-Verse, that's the comic book.
Across.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is coming out soon. Oh my God, like tomorrow.
Yes, right.
Like
Right.
tomorrow.
Thursday?
Yeah.
In fact, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out tomorrow. Oh, I'm so excited.
The midnight release that will be at 7 p.m.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only
Yeah.
some hours away.
I am very excited to see this movie. But we thought, you're going to see a lot of spiders in this movie.
A lot of
And we
spiders.
thought maybe,
if you have arachnophobia,
It's not
don't,
the movie
maybe.
for you. Check out Arachnophobia.
Especially,
Get over that.
yeah,
and
right.
then watch this.
Some,
Yeah.
immersive therapy. Spider's Man is one of them. So if you got arachnophobia, definitely don't look for Spider's Man, who's just a Peter Parker made up of spiders.
oh yeah, Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh.
How did
it was
that
it was a bunch of spiders that ate Peter Parker
Oh, okay.
and now think that they are Peter Parker.
Yeah,
And it's a bunch of spiders in a Spider-Man outfit.
Do they, or are they, right? That his consciousness
I don't, maybe.
gets into a whole other thing.
Yeah, I don't know. So we thought we'd be breaking down some of our favorite spiders that you're going to be seeing in Across the Spider-Verse.
because it takes place in like a multiverse of spiders.
Thank you. Yes. And not just Peter Parker, but any version of the hero or menace if you're a certain grumpy mustachioed newspaper editor.
Mhm.
I'm going to kick us off with Ben Reilly. One of my favorite Spideys is Ben Reilly. So who's Ben Reilly? I'll tell you who it is.
Please tell me, who is Ben Reilly, who is a Spider-Man that will be featured in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
First appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 149 back in 1975. Before I was even A Twinkle in My Father's
Yeah.
Balls. When a villain called the Jackal cloned both Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. So basically, I don't remember how he did it. Do you remember reading that issue? It was like a 1 or 2 issue little story. It wasn't a big deal.
No, it wasn't.
Peter and not Pete, who I don't believe is given a name at the time. They have a tussle back and forth, and Peter defeats him and throws not Pete into a smokestack
Yeah.
at a factory. And that's kind of the last we saw of him for decades.
Yeah. In fact, it threw me for a loop when you were like, first appeared in 1975.
Right?
At first, I was like, no. And I'm like, oh, I guess yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they decided back in the 90s, let's do the Clone Saga. And we're going to resurrect this character who was in 1 or 2 issues of Spider-Man back in the day. And we're going to make a big event out of it.
Right.
And so they retell sort of the story of Peter and not Peter fighting.
They
and
retcon it.
They retcon it. Well, I don't know if it's retconned. They just show you what happened after the fight. They don't
fair
change
enough.
the fight.
That's true.
True.
That's
So
You
you know,
are adding to continuity retroactively, though.
we are adding context of what happened after the story.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
really changing the story, which would be
It's
a
true.
retcon.
Right, but retroactive is what RET stands for, right? It's like inserting something into the past which was not previously there. Although, yes, it is largely.
I always
understood
took
as
it to
changing
mean we've changed something
Yeah.
now that didn't happen before.
I mean, definitely that's how it's used, but you could also say, like, just adding to it is changing something.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you could if you wanted to.
Anyhoomst. He's in the smokestack. He wakes up. We see his point of view. This not Peter Parker wakes up, and he, because he's a clone, thinks he's Peter Parker and winds up going home. He's like, oh man, I can't wait to get back to MJ. I don't know how that guy beat me, blah, blah, blah. He gets out. He gets back to the apartment. He looks in the window, and there is Mary Jane, his girlfriend, making out with himself. And he thinks that's the clone. So that occurs to him, shit, I must be the clone. She would know, right? Like, I must be the clone. So he gives himself the name Ben Reilly after Uncle Ben. And I believe Riley is Aunt May's maiden name.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that's how Ben Reilly is born. And he goes off and he's got a mullet and he gets in all sorts of shenanigans in throughout the United States and eventually comes back to reclaim his birthright, which he believes that he is told
Oh, that
that
he's the
he
real
is the real Peter
now.
Parker and
Yeah.
that the other Peter is the clone.
Was the guy that told him, like, why did you just leave when you saw her making out with the clone?
Yeah, idiot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was like more machinations by the Jackal.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
The Jackal.
this guy's been around since the 90s, and that storyline went on way too long. And even
It's
people
been
like
still
me
going on.
who loved it
That's true.
was like, oh my god, this is so. Why are we still doing this?
Why did you love it? Because
Well,
there
I
wa-
just listen. Okay, so I'm glad you asked. So at the time, Peter and MJ were married when Ben comes back, and I knew that they kind of wanted to get rid of the marriage,
Mhm.
and I thought, what an interesting way to do that, because the idea at the time was Ben is going to take over the main Spider-Man titles.
Mhm.
Peter and MJ, who are expecting a baby, move to Canada.
Mhm.
They're not in the book. I mean, they're sort of in the books here and there. But basically, we're going to be giving Ben, he's the guy that you've been missing this whole time. You've been reading a clone's story.
Mm.
And that pissed off so many people that, from my understanding, they backtracked that.
Mm.
They were like, oh, we can let Peter and MJ go off and be married, but now we'll have another Peter that is not married, and we can still do our, like, romance, will they, won't they,
Right,
triangles and
He could
soap
be a
opera.
single guy again.
yeah.
Yeah.
More or less. Right.
With blonde
And I
hair.
thought that had so much chutzpah.
Mhm.
I was like, man, the balls on Marvel. How neat is that? And then I was really kind of bummed that they walked it back and they didn't have the cojones to stick with it.
I know.
So yeah, I was really disappointed in it. And by that time, and it was a lot of back and forth. Oh, he's the clone. Oh, you're the clone. And it just got cyclical and frustrating after a while. So yeah, eventually that all petered out. Ben went off on his own. He died. Ben died. Oh, petered out. Ben gets killed. And it's not until like the past 10 years that like he resurfaces and
Yeah.
now they've done something with him in the Zeb Wells run where Ben Reilly is now a character called Chasm.
Is he still
who's
a bad guy?
villain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's still going on.
still going on.
Now, I never thought. I always took issue with people at the time with the idea of like, this isn't the Peter Parker that we've been reading about.
Yeah.
You know that
You
they
were one of
felt-
those.
I can see where they're coming from. So I was a kid. I didn't have that much history with
Yeah.
it, but I always was like, well, no, the adventures you were reading were still something that happened.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
weren't about the guy that you thought they were about.
Yeah.
You know, and looking at it now, I guess I can kind of see like, oh, we thought we were reading about Peter Parker, the guy that
Yeah.
got bitten by the spider and whatever. And it's not like it was just some duplicate that was created. It's
Yeah.
definitely not Peter Parker. He just has those memories.
Mm.
But yeah, I remember at the time thinking like, well, it doesn't change anything. He's
Oh,
still.
you liked it. You weren't bothered by it at the time, is what you're saying. I'm trying to parse
I
what you're
was
saying.
not. I was not bothered by it. It was more that what I'm saying is more like, I always thought it was weird that people had an issue with the fact like, oh, the guy I've been reading about turns out to be a clone.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's not the real Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like, it's like all those things, all those stories still occurred in continuity.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How did I feel about it? I was down with it, which is kind of different than how I would normally have felt about
Yeah.
something at the time.
I also liked it
Yeah.
on a meta level. It was also dealing with the philosophy of what a clone is, and if your memories make you who you are, then are you still, because he felt like he wasn't worthy of love, of being a human. He thought he was just some photocopy.
See, all those things, incorrect, right?
Yeah.
He's not the original Peter Parker. He's human. He's a sentient being,
Mhm.
just like anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a lot of stuff in sci-fi where they're like, oh, am I even human? It's like, what's the difference?
Yeah, yeah.
You're an existing being.
Yeah.
You're you know, it's fine. You're still entitled to all the things that sentient beings and
Yeah.
thinking, feeling entities are entitled to.
Mhm.
And you're no different.
But I just thought that there was a neat
Yeah.
macro look at that from the fan base itself.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
like, oh, that's not even what that's not the one we wanted to be reading this
Right,
whole
right,
time,
right.
right?
And also, Peter wasn't gone, right? He
Right.
was around still.
Yeah.
And that costume was awesome.
Oh,
I know you love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's one of my all-time favorite
Yes.
Spider-Man costumes. Is the Ben Riley? A lot of Ben Riley costumes. I remember immediately hating the hoodie.
This one show, I like that one.
I love it now.
Oh, okay.
I love it
Yeah,
now. I actually
yeah.
have the hoodie at
You
home.
too.
I meant to wear it tonight and I forgot. And I even love the other one where it had like he became Spider-Man. He took
Mhm.
over as Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and not the Scarlet Spider. And he had the cool like 2-finger thing.
That was cool.
and- oh man, I loved it.
Impact
And I
webbing, also
I
very
liked the
cool.
Impact webbing,
Stuff
yeah.
on the outside was
Yeah.
cool.
The
Yeah.
web shooters on the outside of the costume,
Yeah.
which makes way more sense.
I guess so.
Because they always draw it as if he doesn't have web
They're
shooters under
very
his costume.
thin
Yeah.
web shooters.
So anyway, do you have any?
I mean,
care
my only
about
thoughts
Ben?
about it is that I didn't really read it, but I was prepped for it because this all took place in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Early 90s.
Yeah,
And, like-
it was like 2 to 4 years somewhere in there.
It definitely went on too long.
Yeah,
I remember that, even though I didn't read it, I remember like, God, this story is still going on.
Yep.
But I was prepped for it because I don't know, you probably don't remember it, Brian. You maybe
No, I read it at the time.
no, but what
Oh.
I'm about to say,
Oh, yes, yes.
is I was prepped for it because in the 80s, in
Mhm.
the late 80s, if you were a Legion of Superheroes fan, this basic story took place in the Legion of Superheroes. Famously, in the Legion of Superheroes, there was a time when it stopped publication, then it got rebooted, and Keith Giffen came back with this
Oh,
whole
yeah.
5 years later storyline, right? Which was basically the Legion of Superheroes in like 5 years later. They're now more adults, and apparently in the 5 years, there was like almost like this dystopian thing that
Mhm.
happened on Earth to the Legion. Well, as that series goes on, and is going on, trying to find its legs, people are liking it. They're not really liking it. And about a year or two into it, all of a sudden they start talking about, we just found like batch SW6.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, batch SW6? What the hell is batch SW6? And it becomes this thing in the comic for like about 3 or 4 months. And ultimately is revealed that there is this clone of the entire Legion of Superheroes. but it's the Legion of Superheroes, not from 5 years before. It's from almost 20 years before,
Oof.
like the early kid
Mm.
iteration
Yeah.
of the Legion of Superheroes. Though, but then you find out that those aren't actually the clones; those are the actual Legion of Superheroes
Wow, this
that
is
were
Right, right.
kidnapped.
Yeah.
And the persons you've been following or the clones, and then DC, God bless them, I will give them this. They went for it and split the two teams up into 2 books.
Mm.
And there was a
Mm.
Legion of Superheroes book, and then the new kid Legion was in a book called Legionnaires,
Yeah.
and that ran for like at least a year, maybe 2
Huh.
years, and it only ended with 0 Hour. But
That's
it was
neat.
that was like the whole deal, because then like in 0 Hours, the whole thing about how, you know, the
This one was
it- it
extant.
ultimately
Yeah.
it became like, you know, but ultimately it became like they had to like give themselves up, and
Yeah.
they were like, hey, this is what we do. And like the kids were like, you know, but we just came back, you know,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, but you came back for what? And he was like, you're right, this is what we came back for,
Oh.
to save the world.
Oh my god.
Hmm.
It was so it like,
Hmm.
because I hated 0 Hour,
Yeah.
but the Legion part of 0 Hour was
Yeah.
so effing dope.
Oh
It
wow.
was so effing dope, man. I
Damn.
loved it.
Similar to the Legion in was it Final Crisis?
Mhm.
The Legion story was awesome, as
Huh.
I recall. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
The Clone Saga took place between 1994 and 1997. So it
2
went
to
on for a
3
little
years.
while.
Yeah, that's a while.
Yeah. Who's up? Len,
I'll
who do you
go
got?
next because
Give us a new Spider Sona.
I will give you actually the star of Spider-Man
Oh.
Across the Spider-Verse, and that would be one Miles Gonzalo Morales.
Gonzalo?
That is his middle name.
I
Is
did
that
not know
right?
that.
And that is in fact his middle name. He is a superhero. He is Spider-Man. In this universe, he was created in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
2011 by writer Brian Michael Bendis and artist.
Oh, not David. Sarah Pichelli.
That's right.
Yeah.
He is a 13-year-old biracial teenager,
Mhm.
teenage son of an African-American father and a Puerto Rican mother. He is the second Spider-Man to appear in Ultimate in the
Ultimate Universe.
Ultimate Marvel,
Yeah.
like that they imprint there, because the first one was actually, because it was the actual the Marvel, the Ultimate imprint was basically a 21st century iteration of the Marvel universe for
Yeah.
new readers. And as that kept going on, Brian Michael Bendis, who created the Ultimate Spider-Man, that book, which was basically a retelling of Peter Parker and his origin and his life, and
But never quite grew up. He was always 16.
he was always 16.
Yeah.
He wanted to kind of like do something different, like, because what if Spider-Man actually was 21st century?
Yeah.
As opposed to, retelling the story from the 21st century. And that's what led him to that, and I think also things going on in his life.
Well, the stuff with Donald Glover happened, right? Like people started suggesting him for Peter Parker. Then there was a backlash against it. Then Bendis, who has an adopted son.
That's what I'm saying. It was because of his personal life as
Yeah.
well. He's like, shit, he can be Spider-Man. And he's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna create a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he created
Yeah.
Miles Morales, who famously, Randy. I'm sorry that Randy couldn't be here, because Randy's son is basically that is him. Randy's son is biracial with a Puerto Rican mother, and he took off. Miles took off. He had pretty much
Popularity-wise, he didn't leave.
No,
Yeah.
no. Like, yeah, he blew up. Let's
He
put it
was
that
like-
way.
He leapt out of the comic.
Yeah. I'm out of here.
Despite that, there was some pushback because of the whole black thing. Because
Not
Look.
my Spider-Man. Blah blah blah.
because it happens. Let's just be honest. It does
Yeah,
happen.
It do.
But he did blow up. He possessed pretty much the similar powers to Spider-Man, except that he had some other powers. Like he had the whole the electric,
Mhm.
The shock thing.
electric
Yeah.
Yeah,
shock
like a
things.
Venom.
and he could turn
Venom.
invisible.
Yeah, Spider
Yeah.
Venom.
You can kind of like
Kind of turn invisible. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
So
Does he make his own webs?
No.
No.
Okay.
He doesn't.
Okay.
He was because he was in the Ultimate Universe. In the Ultimate Universe, Peter Parker had told Mary Jane, I believe, well, Gwen died. And
then came
Aunt
back.
May, and she did, yeah. Aunt May knew about it. So once Peter was dead and Miles was Spider-Man,
Mhm.
they actually sought him out and were helping him.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
they gave him, the Peter's web fluid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I collected, I only have 2 trade paperbacks of Miles.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't like it. I'm just not not a big Spider-Man guy.
Yeah.
But what I recognized was that I love the characterization. I love Bendis, and I love the characterization that he put in there, because while Miles is definitely a nerd like Peter Parker, he definitely still has his own personality.
Yeah.
And the proof that he actually was blowing up is because the Spider-Man that everybody loves in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is basically Miles Morales. They call him Peter Parker, but his whole character, the whole vibe that he is,
His best friend,
his old best friend.
that's basically Genki.
Yeah, exactly.
Ned Leeds
yeah.
is Genki.
Yeah, he is
wasn't-
Miles Morales.
Wasn't Genki friends with Peter in the?
No,
No, that's a Miles. That
he's
was Miles' best friend.
He's Miles' star.
Oh yeah.
They
Everything
were
starts
roommates
from
at school.
and his whole vibe is pretty much like I guess there is, to be fair, a little bit of mixture of Peter in there, but there's a lot of Miles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Miles in there,
Hmm.
so that's proof that he blows up. And I said it when the movie came out, and I love it to this day. That
Homecoming?
no, into the
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse, that as much, and I know there's still talk about there being a live action Miles Morales. I actually love that Miles Morales is an animated movie, and that is his universe, because one, it is hands down the best comic book movie ever.
Agreed.
Ever.
Agreed.
I don't give a
It's certainly the best Spider-Man.
definitely the best Spider-Man, but it is the best comic book movie. But also it allows for him to maintain his personality and his persona, right? And as long as the voice actor can keep the voice going, which for the most part it sounds like he can, Shamik Moore, it will be
dope.
He can do this for years, right? As opposed to eventually a live actor is going to grow out of
and even just not want to devote that kind of time anymore. You know what I mean? It happens with
it's
live
so
actors.
much more of a time suck.
Yeah.
But so I actually love it, and it also it allows for this Spider-Man to be 100% his own thing apart from the first original Spider-Man. He can own this universe all to himself.
My only regret, I agree with everything you said. My only regret is that I would like a Miles Morales movie that doesn't involve 900 other spiders.
I hear you. I agree with that. And I think that was the danger, because
what's up, Danger? Sorry.
Because while there are other Spider-Men in Into the Spider-Verse, it is still first and foremost a Miles Morales movie.
Yeah.
That was the danger with Across the Spider-Verse, because so much of the marketing has been about how many other Spider-Men are in this.
For sure.
But spoiler alert, I did see the movie already. And I can tell you that don't worry about it.
Okay, good. Good.
You know, it's kind of intrinsic to Miles' character that there are other spider people in his life, right?
True.
Like even in his introduction, he was not the first Spider-Man. He doesn't meet Peter for a long time. I think eventually something happens, but you know, he's part of that world. There's a presence of Peter Parker. Aunt May, you just said, you know,
true.
Mary Jane gave him the web shooters and all that stuff. Because I didn't feel that way at all about Into the Spider-Verse. Like I really felt it was Miles Morales' story with some other spider people involved. Yeah. Now, Len, I don't know if you saw, I put in the chat. They said Variety had an article that said that a live action Miles Morales movie is happening.
Yeah, I have seen
Yeah,
that. And
okay,
I honestly don't like that. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
like the idea of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that when I read that article, because they said that they talked to the producers, and they did talk to the producers behind it, but these are Sony producers. Like, the beautiful thing about this universe of films, these are written by Phil Lord and Chris Miller.
Yeah.
They wrote the first one. They wrote this one. And I trust them. And I didn't see their name anywhere in that announcement. So if they're going to do that, God bless them. But if Lord and Miller ain't a part of it, I'm not interested at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they want to build out their Spider universe, having the potentially extremely lucrative. You know what I mean? They've been trying to do that for a while now.
I know.
But it's like, how do you do it without Peter Parker? Maybe this is what they're thinking.
You can do it without Peter Parker.
I'm looking up Lord and Miller because I know the names. Did you ever watch Clone High?
Yeah.
That show was awesome.
It's coming back.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah. I was just on Twitter today, and people have been posting like just segments from the original cartoon. I was like, God, I used to love that cartoon, and it sort of just disappeared. I'm glad it's coming back.
Phil Lord is a fan of the Micheaux Mission.
That's cool.
Is he the guy that tweeted, "I never miss a Micheaux mission"?
Yep.
When is he? Oh yeah. Cool.
What? This mother. They also did the Lego movie, which I love, and 21 Jump Street.
They do good
22 Jump Street. I never saw Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, but
I
that's
love that
great.
book though.
That is
Yeah?
great. That is a great.
Is it
movie.
really?
yeah,
It's a fun
nice.
movie.
I mean, if it's those two, it seems like it would be.
Do you remember the book? Did you read that?
I
I
never,
never read
did.
it. I didn't even know it was a book.
It was cool. It was
I had a
much
meatball.
shorter. You had what now?
I had a meatball.
He's had a
what was the
meatball
weather?
once.
What was the weather like at the time?
Cloudy.
Nice.
With 100% chance of one meatball.
Yeah.
Brian, what's
Yeah.
your spider sona?
Well, the first one I've got here is Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099.
That's that guy.
No.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
One of
He's got
my
the pokey thingies.
favorites.
Yeah,
yes. He's got the pokey thingies. And I remember it came out, I looked it up, I was 11 years old, I think, and I remember thinking it was set to debut, I saw in Wizard magazine in
Wizard.
September, right? And your
Wizard.
sketches, which turned out not to be exactly it, but it was going to come out in September, and I was like, oh man, I cannot wait for September, but school also starts in September. But for the first time, I'm like,
Looking
I
forward to
can't
September.
wait to September, you know? And it delivered.
Yeah.
Man, I loved it. So Miguel O'Hara is in the year 2099, part of Marvel's initiative taking place in that time of future versions of their heroes. And he's a guy that works at Alchemax.
Mhm.
And he's there's some stuff going on there that he finds out about. He tumbles to it.
Oh, yeah.
And they
What does he do? What is his job there?
He's some kind of scientist.
He sciences. All right,
He's-
good.
Yeah, probably genetic. No, he must have been into the genetics because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how his origin plays out. They forcibly addict him to this substance, right? Which I always thought was a cool angle. And to get rid of it, he wants to step into this chamber to resequence his genome back to what it was.
Oh.
But it got mixed in with some spider DNA.
Ah,
right?
of course.
Right?
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, what a doofus.
So hang on a second, it all works out well.
Okay,
right?
cool.
He gets spider powers.
Okay.
Yeah, and he still
I
looks.
saw Cronenberg's The Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gnarly
It
transformation.
was worked out better for
than
Miguel
that. Okay. Oof.
than that. But I saw The Fly a long time ago. I don't know if he
So
becomes a
good.
superhero or
No, he doesn't.
does not.
No,
No.
no.
that
He
doesn't
dies
happen
by
at the end.
shotgun.
Oh,
Self-inflicted shotgun.
Oh,
Spoiler
okay.
alert. Sorry.
well, that's all right. That you spoiled it. Anyway, he gets these powers. He's got a costume made out of some cool, future-y, unstable molecules, right?
Of course, yeah.
Because now they're all over the place. And that world is awesome. It just progresses the Marvel universe, like, 1,000 or 100 years in the future. It's fun.
They made up their own curse word. What is it?
Oh, which one was that? It was good.
It was shock.
Shock. Yeah, it was not bad. Not bad.
Shock and hell.
Shock this.
Shock this.
Right.
Shock that.
I'll tell you, I have a particular interest in when they create fake words
Yeah.
to be just any kind of word, but especially expletives in the future or some other society. I find it really interesting and satisfying when it's good.
Frack.
You know,
Like frag.
Frag.
Yeah.
Or frag.
Greif,
yeah. Lobo.
Greif is good.
Crife, yeah.
Where's Greif from?
Greif is from Legion of Superheroes.
Ah.
And Young Justice, feeling the mode.
Feeling the mode.
and
Feeling
it's
the
Crash.
aster.
The aster.
Feeling the aster.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's different because it's him doing wordplay.
Yeah.
But
Still fun.
It is. Oh,
Yeah.
nobody's saying it's fun.
Okay. whew.
I'm feeling the Aster on that one. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So he gets this costume, which inexplicably has a skull. I mean, it's quite explicable. It was his Halloween costume that he wears for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I liked the costume. I was like, it looks spidery and a skull for some reason.
Yeah. That was always my problem.
Yeah.
Because I went into it like, new Spider-Man. Oh, shit, I'm in.
Yeah.
Shock this. I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I don't care about this. Like, I didn't care about the future world.
Yeah.
I thought saying shock this and shock that was kind of silly. I didn't find the character that engaging. And the most of all, the costume. I was like, what is this costume? What is that logo on his chest? It's like a skull with like, it looked like octopus tentacles underneath of it.
Spider legs.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Right.
But like just the design of it.
Yeah.
I believe it was Rick Leonardi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was the guy who was drawing that. He's the same guy who designed the symbiote costume when Spider-Man got the symbiote black and white costume. Same dude.
Costume.
Wonderful costume.
Yeah.
I have since grown to love the 2099 Spider-Man costume, especially in the video game where it's sort of got this really nice shine to it. It's like metallic blue.
Yeah, because it was a future-y material.
And I liked the finger.
He can
see the
he sticks into walls by these kind of talons on his fingertips and toes.
Yeah.
So he can't stick from anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember in the first episode, he wakes up and his sheets are all shredded, but he's fine.
Yeah.
And he discovers that if he touches himself with it, they automatically retract.
Nice.
Also, his holographic friend,
It's like on a watch.
Lila.
Yeah, that's
It's like on
right.
a watch or
She was
something?
around. I
Yeah.
think she could in his apartment just appear or
Oh, okay.
whatever. But I liked what they did with the eyes on that, and he had webs in it, so he must have been intending.
Well, he had like a weird raggedy
It's like an airfoil
web cape.
and it helped him glide around.
Yeah, it's just a flappy. How's that helping him glide?
This is 100 years in the future.
Oh, I'm
Flappy
sorry.
things.
Yeah, we don't have to.
The technology of flappy things gliding. is well enhanced.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Perhaps if we had watched extrapolations,
Yeah.
eventually
They
it would
would've
have
figured
gotten
out
Flappy
the
things.
flappy gliding thing.
They have stuff that flies so far, but nothing flappy.
Okay.
Yeah.
2099.
Not yet.
Ah.
They are not. They're 40 years away.
Nice.
So yeah, I loved it, and I've never been as captivated by it as I was in that first run. I loved all the 2099 stuff.
Oh yeah, there was like
Oh,
Ghost
yeah.
Rider, Doom. Doom, I think it was written by like
Doom was
Warren Ellis
around,
maybe, or
and you
something?
weren't sure if he was the original Doom or not the
Yeah.
whole time, but he was a good guy. X-Men 2099 was cool. Eventually Fantastic Four. Yeah.
I feel like he is he is a character, Spider-Man 2099, that, like JD, you just said, people are kind of like hit or miss with him when it came out, but retroactively, and probably just like you, JD, through the video game, people have become, he's kind of like, oh, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
You like the
Yeah,
design.
yeah.
You like, like knowing that he's out there. Because I remember, doesn't he show up at the
the end of Into the
He's in the
Spider-Verse?
after credit
the
sequence.
after credit scene,
Yeah.
and everybody went bananas, and then he's a big part of Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So everybody's looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And it's Oscar Isaac, which is cool.
Oh, is that who's?
Yeah,
that's
his
cool.
voice in
That's
it,
cool.
yeah.
I know Peter David wrote stuff for him eventually. Did he create?
I want to
Him?
say yeah.
I think he did.
I was thinking Peter David as well.
I think that was the return. Like, there was a Peter David Spider-Man 2099 run a few years ago, and I think it was billed as like he's coming back to Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah, Peter David and Rick Leonardi.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is an omnibus coming out of that original
Ooh,
run.
That's cool.
So I'm tempted to scoop that up.
And it's Peter.
check
I mean,
that out.
Peter David is a very solid writer.
Yeah, I love Peter
Yeah.
David. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who's mine? I got these ones that I don't care about.
Who's your next
Well,
one?
let's do
Why
like
don't you do Spider-Punk?
Oh, Hobie Brown,
Yeah.
Spider-Punk.
Hobie Brown, excellent.
God damn it. He's from Earth.
Were you
8
in the movie? Were you into Across the Spider-Verse doing all the
all the voices? He's from Earth 138.
I did one, and then they shushed me.
Unbelievable.
Let's see. What do we know about this guy?
Spider-Punk.
He's from. I was really excited about the look of the guy.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Is
I
he
love
in
the
the
look of him.
comics?
He has a comic now.
Oh, okay. So so they almost like created him for the movie.
No.
No. He was in the Spider-Verse comic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
was in
you're
the-
right. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was created by Dan Slott. I
And
believe.
we reviewed one of the issues of the new series on his show, this show.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not his show, but I liked that comic.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was a little bit too heavy-handed on the punk aspects of it. But I do love the costume of it. I've got the really expensive, like, it was like $300, this action figure of Spider-Punk.
Or the ultra posable.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
But the story itself was a little bit of like, oh, Terry Leahy says this is a really good episode. Thank you, Terry. But like the character himself, I can't say I'm completely enamored with. It sounds like it was written by people who just like Googled punk.
Like Poochie from The Simpsons.
Yeah. It just feels a little fake.
I got you. Which is the least punk thing of all.
And his first appearance was an Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, number 10. Now, Randy was going to talk about Spider-Punk. Do you know why? Like, he seemed excited to talk about Hobie.
Because he's talking about somebody. Randy doesn't need anything to be excited.
Okay. All right. So I don't really know that much about him other than like the first issue that I read of his and then didn't continue.
You know, I'll tell you what, I thought, why doesn't JD have Spider-Punk? When we get to this point, just then I was like, oh, just suggest Spider-Punk for JD because he'll know all about him.
I don't.
Not at all. He's a punk guy. Do you even know
He's got a
his
great
secret
look.
identity?
His
He's got
Hobart.
sneakers.
His name is Hobart Brown.
Hobie Brown. Right. You said it a
Hobie.
couple of times.
Yeah.
Looking for something.
Now, who was Hobie Brown? That's not the rocket racer, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
What was that guy's name?
I can't remember.
Yeah, similar sounding name though.
Maybe.
But I failed you about Hobie. I'm sorry, Hobie Brown.
That's all right. You really failed yourself.
Jesus.
Fair enough.
But I'll tell you what.
Tell me what.
It's fine.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about. I was thinking about Jessica Drew.
Oh, Spider-Woman.
So Jessica Drew is.
okay.
Do you have a lot of experience with Jessica Drew?
I got some, but go ahead. Go.
All I know about Jessica Drew, it started around like the Brian Michael Bendis era of the Avengers. And also he had her working for S.H.I.E.L.D. as like a triple agent. So she was, doing a whole lot of espionage, what have yous.
She was actually working for S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That was where it ended up.
Was that,
I believe so,
was
yeah.
that
Okay, yeah,
your introduction to her?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I always knew of her, but that was another one that I looked at and I went, what is that costume?
Yeah.
Oh, I
That
dig
costume is not it's a cool costume.
Yeah.
But I don't see it and go, yes.
It's like the markings of a
Spider-
spider, I would assume.
Why would you assume
What-
that?
What
Because
spider?
she's wearing it.
And her name is
What's-
Spider Woman.
what's
Yeah.
spider-
There's a lot of clues.
Yeah.
Of what spider do you know that
Yeah.
has those markings?
I don't know a lot of spiders, but they do have markings. Like the Black Widow has that little hourglass thing on it for real.
That's true. She does have a little bit of the hourglass.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Are you
she's
finding it?
from England,
Mhm.
and the character is. And she was created by Archie Goodwin and Jim Mooney. She's from Earth 616, which is, the main Marvel Earth. Deceased. What do you mean deceased?
She'll be fine.
Archie Goodwin is deceased.
Oh.
Well, it says the character is deceased. That's not
Just
true.
come back in a little bit, or maybe it's
That's
slightly
ridiculous.
outdated. Whatever.
But I was reading her run when she got pregnant. Which I thought she got the new costume with
The
like
costume.
a motorcycle jacket.
the costume with spider webs that she wore because she wanted to distinguish that persona from Spider-Woman,
No, that was the black costume.
which still had spider webs.
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
Okay.
Those weren't her work clothes.
No,
Those were
no.
her after hours clothes.
Right.
What do you know about Jessica?
Well, what I know about her, first of all, I think where you were talking about she was deceased. I think in the at the end of her original run,
Yeah.
she actually was
Oh.
killed.
Oh, no shit.
And then the character, they kind of like stopped using her for a minute. But I know that Archie Goodwin, and I think actually, and I just read it here to be certain, it was Archie Goodwin and Marie Seravin who
Oh.
actually are credited as her creators.
Oh, okay.
She was primarily created just because Stan Lee and Marvel realized,
We better do this before someone else
let's
does.
get this Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
There might have
before we
been
get-
somebody even about to do it.
I
Right?
think
Is it
that's
one of
what-
those?
that sounds
worried about
familiar,
it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they may have been worried about
Someone
it.
was working on it.
And then not long after they create her in the comics, inexplicably, she gets a Saturday morning cartoon,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is horrible.
Yeah.
But everybody's like,
I
Wait
think
a
it's
minute.
on Disney. I tried it.
it's
Yeah.
on Disney now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Not good.
But at the time, everybody was like, huh, why her?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait a minute. But it was at a time when you took what you got. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
Spider-Woman.
Right.
Spider-Woman. So you made it work. But I didn't have a whole lot of like real connection with her. I wasn't a big fan of the writing or the art on her comic book. But when Bendis did bring her into the Avengers and started really doing something,
It was drawn by David Finch and
Right.
Olivier Coipel.
right, with
Very
this
good.
character
Yeah.
of Jessica Drew, because like you said, there was another Spider-Woman.
Yeah. There's been several. Yeah.
But in between,
Hmm.
I really took to her.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of like Jessica Drew. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, she's
I was,
cool.
you know, it was a different place in life, and I was like, oh, she's cool, and doing something with her. And I remember at one point they actually kind of like rebooted her, and she was almost like going across the country in like this in like a long Cadillac and convertible
Yeah.
Cadillac, and she was having like adventures.
Yeah,
I was like,
okay.
it's kind of cool.
Huh.
Yo, Jess,
Yeah.
go ahead with your
You can
bad
get it.
self. With your bad, this is pretty dope.
I'm going to read some of her wiki here.
Oh.
Jessica was lethally poisoned by radiation while living near Mount Wundagore in Transia. who
Yes,
we may know
the high
from
evolutionary
Yep, and Scarlet Witch, yes.
and Quicksilver.
In an attempt to save her life, her father injected her with an experimental serum based on irradiated spider's blood.
Hmm.
Because the serum did not have any apparent effect on her, the man who would become to known as the High Evolutionary placed her in a genetic accelerator. While in the accelerator, she aged at a decelerated rate.
Seems like
When
a
she was-
decelerator.
Fine, yeah, right?
I guess it's accelerating something, decelerating something else.
When she was finally released decades later, Drew was only 17 years old. Jessica grew up on Mount Wundagore under the care of Lady Bova, one of the High Evolutionary's new men. She was cared for and received the equivalent of a high school education, blah, blah, blippity blap. There you go.
They had like a GED form.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, do you know the original origin for her that involved Wolverine as well, or not directly involved Wolverine, but there's a connection. So it was they were considering having Wolverine be a mutant Wolverine who became human,
I know
right?
what you're talking
You know
about.
about
Yes.
this. So
Yeah.
he had become human, but then
He was bitten by a radioactive man.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
it was Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But Jessica Drew, whoever was writing it at the time, did that origin where she was a spider who had been mutated into a human,
Yeah.
and then very quickly undid it.
Yeah.
But it was already like, well, we're not doing that with Wolverine. Also,
Oof.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, didn't
Ugh.
happen. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea for something.
Yeah.
Interesting
Yeah.
enough, though, Jessica Drew, who was going to make, I guess, her, animated cinematic debut, because she's already made an animated debut because of her own cartoon show.
Yeah.
In Across the Spider-Verse, she is going to be voiced by Issa Rae,
Who's awesome.
who is awesome.
She's great.
But she's a black woman.
Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
She's a black woman, and the character.
Well, the character is also black.
Oh, is
Right.
she?
Well, historically, Jessica Drew was not black.
No, I'm sorry. The character in the
That's what I'm saying. In the movie, she's
Oh,
black.
right.
she's not a white woman voiced by a black actress.
No. She's
Yeah,
she's
just
a black,
clarifying.
she's a black character
Yeah.
in the movie, and her character is 100% unlike Jessica Drew has
yeah.
been in the comics.
Oh, really? Is she at all similar to the other? Not that I don't
No.
know any characterization of the other Spider-Woman.
other like
Although
Spider-Woman. No,
I always thought she was cool, but
Yeah.
she doesn't. I don't know any character traits that she has.
because the other Spider-Woman, because her costume was a derivative of one of Spider-Man's costume, she
Yeah.
always came off as more of a derivative of Spider-Man than
wasn't.
the original Spider-Woman.
It was in Secret Wars. She already had it, and Spider-Man makes a comment. Oh, maybe subconsciously seeing your costume is what made me create a black and white costume instead of because he
Oh.
thinks he's just gone to a clothing maker machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
Interesting.
yeah,
No, whoa.
yeah.
Spider-Man gets his costume because of the Venom originally. That's where he gets the black costume.
But he thinks it's so he goes in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
This was the first
He thinks
graphic
it's
novel I ever had.
Yeah, man. I
And-
remember this.
Yeah, all the other heroes are like, yo, go in. All of our costumes got ripped up. Just go in there. There's all kind of crazy machines. One of them will make a costume for you. And he does, not realizing that he's going to a different machine.
And out comes a little
Which
black ball.
I always thought would be an awesome what if.
Yeah.
Like, what if they all went to that machine?
And there
was all of them had symbiotes, right? But if Marvel would like me to write that, contact me wherever I'm found. BrianLeaveDesign.com. Yeah. So, and it wasn't for a while after that the whole Venom thing was revealed.
Yeah. You know that? He thought he thought it was futuristic, or I guess cosmic technology that was allowing this fabric costume to like slide onto his body and respond to his thoughts and all this other stuff. He didn't know until much later when he started getting really tired during the day, and he found out that like the costume was controlling him and having him.
Oh no, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, having him fight crime while Peter is sleeping. That he takes it to Reed Richards, and Reed Richards is like, "Hey, bro, that's a symbiote. Should probably get that off of you."
I do remember that. I just always thought, because honestly, I never read Secret Wars. I didn't like it.
I loved it. Yeah.
I didn't
It was my first big crossover.
Was it?
You know, I peeped what was happening via Fantastic Four and Avengers. I really didn't care about the miniseries. So I just saw like the cover when he had on the black costume. I was like, oh, he found a black costume. And then I heard that it was a ball. And I was like, oh, he found a ball.
He found a ball. It was like one of those eggs that the pantyhose used to come in.
That's exactly what I thought. Like he got knocked into a rock. It's like, oh, it was a ball.
She got
it was a ball.
legs.
Now, Len, you might be right though about the real world aspect of it. Like they might have had that costume in mind for Spider-Man and created Jessica Drew, or not, whatever her name was. I forget. So
some trivia. Jessica's Shield email address is jdrew@superop.shield.gov.
Oh,
nice little bit of trivia there.
That's interesting. I wonder if they're legally allowed to create an email like that.
Yeah.
Now, so I looked it up. If anyone at home wants to Google red and yellow spider, because we obviously don't have it ready for you now to show on screen, but it shows the first images are of a spider, which you could theoretically draw the look
comparisons,
right? Kind of. There's like little patterns of black and kind of, Now, whether that is a complete coincidence or not, I do not know.
And Spider-Woman was created in response to the Filmation's proposal to create a Spider-Woman character for their Tarzan/Batman Adventure Hour cartoon.
There you go.
Upon hearing about Filmation's plans, Marvel rushed the character into publication, forcing Filmation to rename their character as Web Woman.
Web Woman, yes.
Web Woman.
Yes, and she sucks.
Really? What does she do? Anything, or what's her deal?
She has a web gun, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's garbage.
I didn't know that there was a Tarzan Batman Adventure Hour.
There was a Tarzan Batman Adventure Hour. Not only that, there was also Tarzan and the Super 7, where they had shorts of a whole lot of other derivative superheroes. There was, I think he was called Man or Waterman, who basically is like Aquaman. And
gotcha.
And then there was, but the best of them all was Super Stretch and Micro Woman, who were this black couple who he could stretch, she could shrink down, and they had a pet dog, and they didn't solve like superhero crimes. They were detectives. And they solved like little crimes, man. They were almost like
the elongated man and
kind of like.
That sounds cool.
I loved it. It was just Super Stretch and Micro Woman.
Indeed. How small could she get? What are we talking?
I think she can only get down to like 6 inches. She wasn't like
not like the Atom, right? It's not sinking through any keyholes. All right. Well,
giant keyholes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
those 7-inch keyholes that you have with the giant key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a couple of those put in.
Who do you got?
I have probably the co-star of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
That's Spider-Gwen.
And that would be Spider-Gwen.
Nice.
Who, depending on where you fall in your comicsology, you may have seen referred to as Ghost Spider.
That's true. Which doesn't make sense to me.
It is a kind of spider. And so I think they're like, we're going to call it something other than Spider-Gwen.
The fact that there's Miles Morales who can become invisible and he's not called Ghost Spider seems silly to me.
Well, but I think the whole idea is because Spider-Gwen or a Ghost Spider because her costume
It's
is
white.
predominantly
all
white.
white.
It does
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
more of the ghost look.
Fine.
And it's got the hood, which is
That hood is so
ghostly.
cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Her
Cool.
costume is
Yeah.
dope.
One of the
Very
coolest.
cool
yeah.
costume.
It's one of the
Yeah.
dopest. Imagine. The Spider-Gwen began in 2015 as an ongoing comic book series. Revolves around the Gwen Stacy of Earth 65,
Mhm.
an alternate universe of Gwen Stacy that debuted in the Edge of Spider-Verse #2 from the 2014-2015 Spider-Man storyline called
Edge of Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. Very good. It explores a universe where Gwen Stacy was bitten by a radioactive spider instead of Peter Parker, leading her to a career as the Spider-Woman of her
Oh,
world. And,
gotcha.
and in fact, in the movie, she is referred to
Hmm.
as Spider-Woman.
That's cool.
So she's not. Of course,
They're not doing a lot of. They're not doing really well with their branding. Because
Well,
in the like the kids cartoon, she's called Ghost Spider. You know, Spidey and the Amazing Friends. You know.
well, but I think the whole idea, the conceit of in this movie is that, with few exceptions, everybody in these multiverses
Yeah.
are a Spider-Man or
Hmm.
woman.
Yeah. yeah.
You know, but it's really their look that defines the difference between them.
Can I pause you real quick? Because I have in my head the headcanon of events is that there was occasionally Marvel or usually Marvel will do a series of variant covers.
Yes.
And from my understanding or my memory, they had done a Gwen month. And
Mhm.
so there were a bunch of different what if Gwen was this character.
Mm.
And the one that seemed to catch on was Gwen as Spider-Man.
Oh.
And that became so popular. Everyone was so cool, so interested in that's how they actually made her into a character. It was just like a one-off illustration,
Mm.
and everyone reacted so well to it. I want to say, I don't know if it was Rico Renzi. I'm trying to remember the guy who drew that, but
I seem to remember that too. I don't have that here, but
yeah, I don't think they would tell you that in the
They
wiki.
probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Now,
yeah.
that did,
Maybe I'm wrong. Someone
that-
tell me in the chat.
And that happened with Gwen Poole. Absolutely.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You're right. That did happen with Gwen Poole. I think he's right. I think I seem to remember that because when that happened, I was like, really, they're gonna make this a character, and it became a thing, you know. And then
Yeah.
I had a certain fan of JD's who was inundated me to read the freaking book, and I did it. Actually, it was cool.
Nice, nice.
Wait, Gwen Poole or Gwen?
Gwen Poole.
Oh, yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
It was cute.
Yeah.
From the beginning, just going through high school student Gwen Stacy was bitten by a radioactive spider. This granted her all of the quintessential Spider-Man powers, and she became Spider-Woman. In her regular life, she begins a relationship with her Peter Parker, but forms a friend group with Parker and ostracizes, of course, Harry Osborn, who is later revealed to have a crush on her. Meanwhile, Peter becomes infatuated with Spider-Woman without knowing that she is Stacy. The bully Peter's suffering worsens, and eventually he creates a formula that turns him into a lizard.
Mhm.
So he becomes the lizard in
That's
the
cool.
on the Earth
Interesting.
65. And then basically like her story continues, but she becomes a very popular character.
Oh yeah.
Hugely popular. I think the reason why they changed the book over from Spider-Gwen to Ghost Spider is
Yeah.
probably as much about branding, giving
Yeah.
her at least a name of her unto herself.
Well, I always understood it to be also that she calls herself Spider-Woman in her own, or she did call herself Spider-Woman in her own universe. And then for whatever reason, story-wise,
She comes to our Earth.
yeah.
right? Yeah.
But everyone had been calling her Spider-Gwen, which is in the real, in our world, which is a very, very catchy name.
Yeah.
So nothing else really compared to it.
Mhm.
And they couldn't have her call herself Spider-Gwen in,
Yeah.
That
in
makes no
continuity.
It's like,
Because
my name's
right.
Spider Peter.
right.
Yeah.
And I
Perfect.
wear a mask, but I will give you a little hint. This is my first name.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they were caught in one of those like Captain Marvel for DC, kind of things where
Yeah.
it's like nothing works as well as the thing we've been calling her.
Yeah.
We got to do this, Now I also feel like they could change her name to Spider-Woman and it would be fine.
Yeah.
Because there's characters with, Miles Morales is called Spider-Man,
Yeah.
right? In he's now in the 616 universe.
Mhm.
Had multiple Green Arrows. It's not as uncommon now, but well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I thought she was a really cool character. I like that she was in a punk band
Mm-hmm.
with
Yes.
with her friends, and the band was called the Mary Janes.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually sold Mary Jane's T-shirt, like band T-shirts and
that's
stuff,
cool.
which I thought was really cool. Yeah, and so all that stuff that you told us about her origin, all in flashback. Like when you first meet her in Edge of Spider-Verse 2, that entire thing of her being bitten, Peter Parker being jealous of her and becoming the Lizard after experimenting himself and then dying somehow, that's all just told in a flashback. That's not a story that you read your way through. It's just, oh, this is where we were.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are now, which I thought was an interesting way to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
kind
it's
of
more-
they yada-yada'd it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more interesting part, right, is that she is meeting 616's Peter
Yeah.
Parker, and it's like they both lost
Yeah.
somebody like that in
Mhm.
their universe,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love her. I love her character design. Like I
Yeah,
can't say
so
I know
cool
a whole
looking.
lot about the character. My biggest introduction to her was Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. She was
And I loved her
Haley,
Into the Spider-Verse.
Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld.
She's great.
That's the voicing.
Who is also somebody else in the live action
She's
MCU,
Hawkeye.
right?
She's a new
Yes.
Hawkeye.
Right.
She's the new
Okay.
Hawkeye. She was in Bumblebee, the Transformers movie. Yeah,
Into-
She was
she's great.
also in the
True Grit.
remake of True Grit.
Ah,
That's the
she
way
was awesome in
started.
True Grit. She started off. She was like, little kid in pigtails.
How tall was you by the end of it?
Whoop.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's not true. She became. You see her at the end of the movie, and she's a grown woman. She's old.
Did they have that thing with
Yeah.
the door where you might make a little mark as the kid grows
Oh yes,
up?
yeah.
It was a big part of the story of True Grit.
Who's next? Me?
I am next,
Go.
JD. If you please.
I do please.
Oh, thank you. Now I have Spider-Man Unlimited, right? Now there are two things that are called Spider-Man Unlimited, and I at first thought that it was one of them. I did not realize that the info that we had is links, right? So I was
Hot links that you can click on.
yeah, that's not relevant, but it is all to say, I don't know which Spider-Man I'm talking about. Spider-Man Unlimited from the 1990s cartoon,
Ah,
which I thought was pretty cool, but
Did
is
you?
a very slimly held opinion.
yeah.
He's Peter Parker. He's in another reality where you got a bunch of anthropomorphic animals doing like dystopian future stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got some extra powers. He ostensibly was the same Spider-Man from the animated series.
Yeah. Right.
And just happened over into this world for a while.
Such a
and
cool idea.
It is.
Now,
Yeah.
was this before or after Batman Beyond? Because it seems like a response to Batman Beyond that didn't work out.
Yeah, I gotta say it was probably right after, but I don't know now that you mention it.
Yeah,
I
they're
have
like,
the
let's take
feeling
our
that it was
IP
after.
and then we'll throw them in a
Yeah.
completely different situation.
Well, it could also be one of those things which happens very, very often in
Dennis
human
the Menace.
history. Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
Calculus invented by two guys. You know, there's like Deep Impact and that other one, Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. There was another thing like Ghostbusters that came out at.
It's around the same time. Yes, it was.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
The Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
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 I know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. With the monkey?
Yep. With the
Yeah,
monkey
with
and
the monkey.
the jalopy.
Yeah. That's right.
So yeah, who knows? Batman and Captain America, when they both died but actually
yeah.
got sent back in time.
Yeah.
And it just happens. It's in the Gestalt, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
What did you think of the cartoon?
I thought it was cool because it was in this futuristic world in another reality. I thought his costume was cool. I liked the animation at the time. And I saw a little bit of it years later, and I was like, that was cool.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember hating it.
Yeah.
It popped on and I was like, what is this nonsense? And then just like a year or two ago, I noticed that it was on Disney Plus probably. And I was like, oh my God, there's that cartoon. Let me check that out. You know what? I was probably just too harsh on it at the time. Let me put this on. And I didn't make it through an entire episode.
Oh, really?
I was like, no.
Yeah.
This is
You're
not
right.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Young me was correct.
So I guess we had similar experiences where we both confirmed our young
our
opinions.
biases. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like that with Beware the Batman.
Oh, I
I like
love Beware the Batman.
Did you like it or not like it?
I hated
You didn't like it.
Ah.
But you tried it again later and still didn't like it.
What did you like? That was the CGI one
It was
where it was
the
like
CGI one.
young MI5 or MI6 Alfred
Yeah.
with the accent. And, oh, man.
The
part of it-
outsiders forming kind of.
That was so
yeah,
cool.
It was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never made it that far.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you know what?
Hey.
Totally different, but a cartoon of that era.
Uh-huh.
Have you guys ever seen the Silver Surfer cartoon?
Wait, which era?
Ooh, like
There was one in the 60s or 70s.
no, it was in '90s.
Oh.
Maybe the 90s one.
Nope.
I feel like I did.
It is.
Was there just a lot of him being sad on his surfboard in space, like
It's the whole thing.
contemplating things?
There are no other characters.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk.
Yeah.
He just
It's
floats
just him.
around.
Actually,
Frowning.
just a static
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
Cheapest cartoon ever made. Yeah.
Only one season.
Yeah.
but
one episode.
which is actually true, and it ends on a massive cliffhanger. But
Ah.
it is Jack Kirby animated.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's cool.
There's some like 90s sci-fi or CGI
Yeah.
that is very 90s
I
right now,
remember that
right?
from the Spider-Man.
But from swinging through the
Yeah.
buildings,
Oof.
right? But if I could plug that Silver Surfer, if you like
Go
classic
ahead.
Silver, plug that Silver Surfer
Yeah.
cartoon.
Plug it
if
right
you
now.
like that
Get
Kirby,
in there.
I'm plugging it. So it's stopped up.
Yeah.
So,
Well done.
thank you.
Yeah.
So check it out if you're into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Wait. Spider
You're up.
Me go.
Yeah.
May Parker. All right. So
Hmm.
speaking of the Clone Saga,
Hmm.
which was a mess. I remember, if you remember at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about the Clone Saga and how Peter Parker and Mary Jane were expecting a baby.
Mhm.
Well, they had the baby and it was stillborn. She goes into labor. The doctor tells her that the baby is stillborn. They lost the baby. Everyone's very sad. We find out that Norman Osborn is alive again after having been murdered by his own glider. And turns out the baby was not stillborn. The baby was alive, but Norman Osborn paid the doctor and the nurse, no,
no.
Oh.
I'm listening because
But-
to like
believe
swap out the baby. And he had the nurse kidnap May, the baby,
Swapped it out with a baby
with
that
we just found it. He's Green Goblin. He's probably got
he-
a bunch of like dead babies
just around.
with his goblin gliders and what
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah,
he raises dead baby.
he raises them.
And,
Very short-term
um,
commitment.
and so they swap it out, and so they think that their daughter is dead, and the last we see of her is the nurse gets on a boat and goes out to sea.
Oh, this was all in
Continuity
main
in
continuity.
Amazing
Oh,
Spider-Man.
I forgot about that part of it.
Yes,
Yes.
and they just
Nothing.
forgot. They wanted
Right.
her. They just wanted us all to forget that she existed.
Right.
She went on
But
an island with Tyrock of the Legion of Superheroes.
they wound
It's
up
like that
doing
Island of Misfit Toys.
nice.
Whatever. with the year without a Santa Claus.
They wound up doing a what if. Was it actually called What If Spider?
It was a regular What If issue that
Yeah.
then was so popular it led to a series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it actually was. Was it like What If
Oh, what
Spider-Man's
if we
daughter
got back to
lived or
that plot?
something? Yeah.
Right.
And the Spider-Girl series, which follows Mayday Parker, their supposedly dead daughter, as if they had found her again, and she was raised by Mary Jane and Peter. Peter winds up losing one of his legs. He quits being Spider-Man, and
As one does.
as one does.
Sure.
And Mayday finds out that he is Spider-Man and develops her own powers, and she's on the basketball team, and she's in high school and all this other stuff. And it was the closest I think we've ever gotten to revisiting the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era of Peter Parker Spider-Man, the early years. It had a really fun cheese factor to it.
Mhm.
Was it Ron Friends, I think, drew it?
And was it Tom DeFalco?
Tom DeFalco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was on purpose, if they were trying to channel that lightning in a bottle, but I felt like as I was reading, I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. This feels like early Peter Parker.
Even more than Ultimate Spider-Man felt that way.
Way more.
Way more.
Way more.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because it had that very sort of like 60s cheese,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
a modern sensibility at the time in the 90s,
Mhm.
late 90s.
It makes sense if that was the case, having debuted in a What If,
Mhm.
that they're like, oh, we're gonna do this one-off story. We're gonna
Mhm.
pay a great deal of homage to the origins of the beginning style of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, and similar to 2099, it had a whole universe with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which-
so, all to itself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the A. Well, it was A2.
M-
It was Marvel.
Was it M2?
Right. M.
Yeah.
M square M.
I think the Avengers of that world were called. The book was called A2.
Yeah. I forget what that
Something.
was called.
I think it
Shoot,
was the
but go on.
M2. It might, or it was
Yeah.
M something. It was initials.
M squared.
Yeah,
something like that.
that.
Yeah.
And M to the second power, I think is
Mhm.
how you're supposed to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But this one was because of the popularity of this character.
Yeah.
That, it wasn't created as an initiative. People just really loved it. Was it eventually revealed that her father was Ben Reilly, was the clone? And that's why she wore that costume? That's why that was in her attic?
I don't remember that.
I think it might have been.
Oh, that's neat.
It might have been in a different thing that she appeared in.
Oh.
Like Universe X or something. She
Yeah.
appears. But I think at some point that was said, was that,
Oh.
like, that's why she
Oh my
has
God.
that. Is it right
I
there?
happened to look down at my phone.
Ah.
On Earth 1122, there is an alternate Spider Girl who resembles that of her
Ah.
Earth 982
Hmm.
counterpart. This Spider Girl has implied that she is the daughter of Ben Reilly, a clone of Peter Parker.
There you go. And we get to see that costume more, which I was going to
Yeah.
mention in Ben Reilly, but I figured we'd
Yeah.
be talking about
The Ben
Mayday.
Reilly costume is
Yeah.
the one that she wears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, while that would have been neat if
Mm.
if it was that actual Spider Girl, I could see that there would have been a lot of backlash to something like
Yeah.
that because people, to JD's point, people fell in love
Yeah.
with this character.
Yeah,
They fell
yeah.
in love with this book so much so that I think not once, not twice, I think 3 times they
Mhm.
threatened to
3 or 4.
cancel this book.
They
Mhm.
said, we're canceling it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have
And
the.
it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
such backlash, and so many letters were written back when people wrote letters
Yeah.
that, they were like, oh, okay, I guess we'll keep
Yeah.
publishing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It went on for like 10 or 15 years, I
Yeah.
think, right? It was like a really long time.
on and off, but yeah,
Yeah.
for quite a while. So yeah, I wish they would do an omnibus of that because that was so fun.
They haven't.
was good.
I haven't seen it.
Wow, that
Right?
would sell like gangbusters
Yeah.
if they did it.
Mhm.
I'm surprised they
Um,
haven't done it. She also makes her debut in the movie,
Oh yeah, Cool.
but it's not the Mayday Parker you expect.
Oh.
Well, it is, but it isn't.
Oh.
Because it's Spider-Girl, but it isn't.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it is and is not the one I expect.
Okay.
Well, it's not the one if you are expecting the comic.
Hmm.
It's not quite the comic.
Interesting.
Okay.
But it is
Yeah,
the
shut up.
comic.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be spoiled. So we're at 9:22. Do you look like you're looking? Do you want to do something real quick?
I'll tell you what, there was one that was not originally assigned to me, but
All
it was
right.
on either Randy's or Noel's list, and I remember reading this
Yeah.
at the time. But I
I'm
want
going to
to.
share it with somebody, damn it. So
Exactly.
go ahead, Brian.
I need to speak it out. Pavitr Prabhakar.
Oh,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man India.
Yeah, who I remember as part of an initiative at Marvel at that time of telling stories that were similar to or influenced by a lot of their major characters, but in other circumstances,
Sure.
right? And he was one of them that had. See, I read it, I liked it, and I barely remember it, so I forget if he had spider powers or if it was
He had a spider.
he had a spider. Yes, he was like the red bee. This is the second time that character has come up on this podcast.
Somewhere the creators of the estate of the Red Bee, his
Yeah.
family is like,
Well, it's heating up. It's heating up.
Published in 2004, retelling the story of Marvel Comics Spider-Man in an Indian setting. It ran for 4 issues, which were also later published in the U.S. in 2005 and collected in a trade paperback.
Right. It was an initiative to originally be published outside of this code, like in
Yeah.
whatever area it was set in.
Yep.
In this case, India, and I don't know if the other ones were set in other places. But I think he had this cool, like, kind of grappling thing
Mhm.
that he would and that's why I don't remember if he had powers or if he was just highly trained and could, swing around by shooting this thing out and then
Mhm.
swinging around on it. He's got a cool costume, a character design, And I remember really liking it. So,
And he is in the movie.
and he's in the movie.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
Yeah.
prominently.
Oh yeah. Oh cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Paviter Prabhakar,
I don't think
voiced
they call
by
him
Karen Sony.
Oh, I do want your opinion.
Oh,
There's one in here.
I have them.
The Armored Spider-Man.
Uh-huh.
What was your feeling about that when it came out? The first, I know you picked it up, right?
Yeah.
The silver
It had the chromium
foil
cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was basically just a suit of armor that he made himself to combat Electro or something.
Something.
Yeah.
Somebody.
It was silly.
Yeah.
It was silly, but I thought it was fun.
It was cool.
Yeah. All right. Email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. Let us know your favorite Spider Sona, who your favorite is. Do you love the Spider-Verse movies?
Quick question for you, JD.
Hey, hi, yeah.
Okay. If all the Spider Men, Spider Women,
Spider Folk,
and Spider
the Spider Thems.
Spider minutia
Uh-huh.
that would make your heart, grow 10 times
Uh-huh.
the size.
Like the Grinch, yeah.
Right.
Or 3. But
If you saw it in the movie,
who would it be?
what or who would it be?
Well, I mean, I already know that. I mean, mine was Ben Riley.
But you
and the
know
fact
he's
that-
there.
Yeah.
So that you don't know.
Oh, but
hmm.
will your facial expression give it away if he's there or
Oh,
not?
I got a pretty good poker face.
Okay.
I mean, I was gonna go with the Japanese Spider-Man, Spider-Man,
The like one that had a robot and a watch and all that stuff.
Leopardon. Yeah,
but we know
yeah,
he's
yeah.
there.
We do.
Yeah. It was one of the ones that Noah gave.
Oh, I didn't
given
see
me.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Whoops. Okay. Why? Is there someone you're thinking of?
Yes.
For me?
There. Yes.
Oh. Oh no! Who is it?
I don't want to tell you.
Oh,
Ah.
geez.
I want to see. So all right. So name somebody else, and I won't say
Besides Ben Riley?
and the Japanese
From
one.
the Japanese one.
Anything from Spider World.
I don't know what you're getting.
The
at.
Hostess Twinkies Spider.
The Hostess Twinkie Spider-Man. The electric. What was that? The Electric Factory or no? The Electric
Electric Company.
Company Spider-Man.
Wait, JD, you should. Oh, you can't even come up with something. I was going to say you
Yeah.
should write it down, and then
Yeah.
we'll see if Len's guess was right. Len, you should write it down.
Just tell me. What is it?
I don't want to tell you.
What? Okay.
Your heart will grow 10 sizes.
Oh.
Buy 2 seats.
What is it?
I don't want to tell you.
But then when you
Because
set
it's
this
a
whole
cool,
thing up.
because it's a cool moment when it
All right. We'll see if I can guess what it is after I see the movie.
Yes, there you go.
All right. How about
There
that?
we go.
All
There
right.
you
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Okay. That's it. We're getting out of here. Bye. We love you. Len, tell
Yes,
the people where you are.
I'm right here.
All right, cool. Brian,
Yeah.
you're here?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes other places. I'm at brianleibdesign.com. Marvel,
Yeah.
get back to me about that story. I got some other what if ideas. Just find the email at the link.
I'll be
Get
at
to writing.
home. I'll be at home wondering what the hell Len's talking about.
Okay.
This is gonna haunt me until I see the movie.
And I will tell you that on the Michaud Mission next week, Vincent and I will be here from the Video Content Factory on next Tuesday at 7 p.m. and we will be reviewing Spider-Man Across the
Oh, shit.
Spider-Verse.
Cool. And then
All right. And then
Again on
join us
Wednesday.
here on Wednesday when we will be
Yeah.
reviewing
yeah.
Spider-Man Across the
So see if
Spider-Verse.
Len holds his opinions over 2 nights.
He's
I'll know if he does.
notoriously flip-floppy with his Spider-Man opinions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Oh, I want to read Robert Monroe Jr. He talked earlier about the fresh floppies.
Yes.
I missed it because there wasn't one.
This is what you're reading, what he's wrote.
Yeah, it's become part of my post-work ritual. I crack open a beer and listen to the show.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Robert. That means a lot to us. I hope you enjoy. We'll be back next week with another Fresh Floppies every Wednesday morning, so you can listen to it on your way to the comic book store.
And what is Fresh Floppies?
It's the spoiler-free reviews of comic books that
Nice.
were released that day.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting the fuck out of here. Bye.